Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show.
Hey, magic makers, do you ever feel like it's just one of those weeks, and I'm air quoting here, and you're not sure, do I need a nap, jumbo latte, or just tap out of my life for a few moments or days or weeks? Yeah, same. I have been there. I have lived through the burnout. And, here I am thinking I'm crushing my goals, checking all my boxes. I was so successful on paper, but inside my body was like, girl, sit your ass down. And I know that I'm not alone. 63% of women feel pressure to be everything to everyone. And that kind of pressure is freaking exhausting. It is the kind of kindling for a full-blown burnout, according to the American Psychological Association. And if you're that kind of woman who ties their worth to their productivity, hello, high achievers, I'm in recovery. Studies show that you are twice as likely to end up stressed, wiped out, and wondering why life feels so damn heavy all the damn time. That's according to the Journal of Applied Psychology. That is why I brought Coach Ellen to the show today. She's here to break down the 4 types of burnout. Yep, there's no one size fits all. How to spot the signs before you literally face plant into a pile of perfectionism, how to manage burnout without quitting your life or moving to Bali. Moving to Bali sounds fabulous. However, if you've ever whispered to yourself, why am I like this? Or God, I just want 5 minutes to myself, this episode is your answer. So let's dive in before your nervous system sets fire to the whole damn thing and files a complaint with your manager. All right, magic makers, I would love to hear how this is landing with you.
And here is this week's iTunes review. It comes to you from Dub by V. She writes, I love the podcast. You speak your mind and you don't sugarcoat anything. I love your energy and your good spirit. Oh, that just fills my heart. You don't even understand how much I enjoy these reviews. So please, if you feel the need, please go to iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast. Do me a favor and hit me up with a 5-star review. I absolutely love them. They mean the world to me, and I will read it on my podcast. So thank you so much, Dub by V. It does mean the world to me.
All right, magic makers. Today, I am really, really excited about my guest. Her name is Ellen Shinke, and we are talking all about burnout. And we're talking about burnout because some of you are like, what does that have to do with me? Burnout is a lot of things. And we're going to unpack what burnout actually is, because I didn't really feel like I was burnt out until I literally was on the floor in a heap. And then I was like, what is this feeling that I'm feeling? And then as I was like uncovering like why I didn't feel like doing anything, why I was just so like, life could just go on without me, I just realized it's because I was trying to take on too much too soon, doing all the things perfectly. And eventually my body was like, girlfriend, and just shut me down. And so I'm bringing Ellen on here because I know there's a lot of you out there. If you aren't on a heap on the floor, I see you racing towards that brick wall fast and furious. And I want to try to remove that brick wall from you. But I do know that some of you have to hit that brick wall, because I was a hit the brick wall kind of girl. Like, you told me I was going there, but I had to hit it for myself just to see, like, is it going to be as hard as you said it was going to be? It was. It sucked. So let's see if we can avoid that suck and talk with Coach Ellen. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And honestly, you just said something a second ago that I smirked, because I speak fluent movie quote, and you were like, what is this feeling? Have you seen Wicked?
No, I have not.
Oh my God, there's literally a song in it where they're like, what is this feeling so sudden and new? And that's like the first line of the song. And I was just like, yep, that's actually a very appropriate way to think of burnout. I never would have thought it that way, but I speak fluent movie quotes, so my brain went there. But hi, everybody. I'm pumped to be here. You're getting a peek inside my brain already because that's how I roll.
Can we be real with each other, magic makers? How do you really feel about summer? Are you that woman who puts off weight loss or healthy living goals because you just want to enjoy summer without tracking every single bite? Or maybe you're the one who's Googling restaurant menus on vacation, trying to find the best restaurant that will serve you keto and vegan. Or waking up at 5 a.m. to squeeze in a workout before we hit the beach with our families. Or wrestling with that guilt every time you skip the gym and you say yes to the extra basket of chips. And of course, I will have another margarita salt. This summer is the year you get unsexy. Yeah, I said it, because unsexy is sustainable. And sustainable is where we get results that actually last longer than a trip to the beach. In the Unsexy Summer Shred, it's an 8-week program that I'll be running for women over 40 who are done with the extremes and ready for a routine that lets them live life and get results. We're talking more protein without needing a food scale, strength training that fits into your real schedule, including when you're hitting the beach, daily habits that don't require superhuman willpower, discipline, or motivation, and a repeatable process that will make consistency feel easy and effortless. Imagine heading into fall feeling stronger and confident without feeling like you need to white knuckle your way through this summer of rules, restrictions, and regret. My client Liza, who just added more protein to her breakfast, found that she wasn't snacking late night. She wasn't having that extra need for coffee later in the afternoon. So doors open soon, but the wait list is where you get your first dibs and the juicy bonuses. And if you are ready to stop pressing pause every time summer comes or every little misstep over the summer, this is why you need to hop on the wait list. This summer, we're going to stop dieting and we're just going to start doing what works. So if that sounds like you and you want to get unsexy, I got you. I speak movie quotes as well. But yeah, that literally, like, I look back, it's probably like 2017, 2018. Yeah. I just was like completely like, really doing well in my business. And I was like, just everything was going in my mind well. But I just always felt like there was one more thing.
Yes.
And then eventually, like one day, I was like, fuck it all. Like, I just.
Yeah. And honestly, mine was like my first experience with burnout was very, very similar, but it was kind of fuck it all, but from a different perspective. It wasn't necessarily the one more thing. For me, it was kind of more the emotional side of things. And we're totally going to get into this, I know, at some point today, because there's different types of burnout. Yes, technically burnout is all one thing, but I think it's really important to type burnout because we see ourselves in different facets of burnout. And especially as women, like women can be very all or nothing. Like if we don't see every single symptom being something we're experiencing, we're like, oh, okay, that must be not be what I have. Like we're the same way when we apply for jobs. If we don't have every job qualification, we're like, oh, I'm not going to apply. And that's why I really like to type burnout, because it sounds like what you were experiencing was very much the overwhelm side of burnout. My first experience with burnout was very much the emotional side of burnout. So when I said fuck it all, it was coming from like a lack of fulfillment, a very emotion and mental driven place. And that's what's really interesting about burnout to me.
So, so you mentioned you talk about there's two types of burnout. So what is burnout really? Like, because you hear the word, but like you said, like I took it from one perspective, you take it from another perspective, and maybe someone listening is like, I thought it was this.
Yeah. So what I'm going to actually go ahead and do is I'm going to give you like the medical definition of what burnout is. And then I'm going to kind of backtrack and be like, okay, this is actually how I think it shows up. Because there's some great parts about the medical definition, but there's also some, for lack of a better way to say it, some kind of bullshit parts of the medical definition. So we're going to call some of those out today. So how the definition of burnout works is first and foremost, the burnout has only had a definition period since May 2019. It hasn't even been 6 years since the World Health Organization gave burnout a medical definition. So I always think that's really important to know. That's kind of why it feels like burnout has exploded in the last 5 or 6 years. Yes, also just like life, the last 5 or 6 years has been interesting. But that's a big reason why burnout has exploded. So in May 2019, the World Health Organization finally was just like, all right, we need to actually define what burnout is. And they said that burnout is an occupational phenomenon that is the result of chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed, and that had three primary characteristics: energy depletion, negativity and cynicism about your job, and reduced professional efficacy. So that is how the World Health Organization defines it. But they made a point. Firstly, they made a point when they first announced it that they were like, burnout is not a medical diagnosis. It is a occupational phenomenon, which I feel like was really interesting that they were not willing to say it was a medical diagnosis. I think part of the reason for that is because there's a lot of what are called comorbidities with burnout. Like burnout and depression have some overlaps. Some of the physical symptoms that result from being burned out are like, chronic, maybe ulcers, or maybe you have high blood pressure. So there's overlap a lot. And I think that's a big part of the reason why they didn't say that burnout in and of itself was a medical diagnosis. But what they said that I think is utter bullshit is they always say that burnout is an occupational phenomenon, which is their way of saying you can only burn out at work. And it's so funny to me because every single psychologist, therapist, social worker, other coach that I have talked to who does this work, we all hate that part of the definition. Yeah. Because tell that to a new mom. Tell that to somebody who's taking care of a chronically ill relative. Tell them, no, you can't burn out from that work. You can only burn out from the stuff that you are being paid to do. Are you kidding? It's so dumb. And even if your burnout was coming from work, I don't know any human who is good enough at compartmentalizing where their stress is coming from away from the rest of your life. It doesn't matter where the burnout's coming from. It's going to bleed into the rest of your life. Hard stop, period, end of story. So that's kind of how the World Health Organization sees it. How I see burnout, and this is going to perhaps be different than another burnout coach you might talk to, is I think there are 4 types of burnout. And you're going to see that 3 of the 4 types actually fit very neatly into the World Health Organization's definition. One of them doesn't. The 4 types of burnout, in my opinion, are physical burnout, overwhelm burnout, emotional burnout, and boredom burnout, because you can actually burn out from boredom, from a lack of challenge in your life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see it. And each of those have kind of their own set of symptoms and fixes underneath it. And that's actually a big reason why I like to type burnout, is because not all burnout is created equal. You're not going to do the same thing for physical burnout as you're going to do for emotional burnout. So it really helps to know what is the type of burnout that's resonating the most with you so that you can take very specific action toward that type of burnout.
Yeah. So circling back, when you first were reading the definition and you said occupational, and I was like, I'm like, okay, so what if I'm a stay-at-home mom and I got multiple kids and I'm chasing them around, here, there, and everywhere? That's easy to burn out. And then again, you said, taking care of aging parents, that in and of itself, that's the Lord's work.
Yeah. Oh my God, is it? I think you can burn out from damn near anything. Yeah. I think it isn't even necessarily about the part of your life that's creating burnout. I think you can burn out from purely having too much on your plate in general. Work, personal life, whatever. I think you can burn out from just having too full of a plate, no matter where that fullness is coming from. I kind of feel like it's interesting to me because the World Health Organization says it's occupational, which how we could think of that is, all right, that means it's on your job to help you fix your burnout. Right. But jobs, because I do a lot of corporate work and consulting work, you'd perhaps actually, I was going to say you'd be shocked, but you probably wouldn't be shocked how many companies blame it on their employees. I've literally had so many companies be like, oh, our leadership is fine. Our company is fine. We do everything right. Our people don't know when to stop working. And I'm just like,
right.
So if you hear yourself right now?
If I said I'm full at 3:00 and I wanted to roll out, there wouldn't be a raised eyebrow that I was leaving at 3 p.m.
Right? Right? I've even there's situations where I've worked with people who are highly productive. They get their work done. It's not like they are underworking. They get their work done and they want to leave early. And they're almost penalized for that because they're just given more work.
Right.
So you're penalized for your efficiency. Don't tell me it is a people thing. Absolutely, there are personalities that are more inclined to overwork. And that's a big reason why I built my business around working with high achievers, high performers, because so much of our identity can get wrapped up in our work and being a helper and being like contributing. Absolutely, there are people like that. But I'm sorry to say your entire workforce just doesn't know when to turn off.
That's bullshit.
I'm sorry. You're it's complete and utter bullshit. So there's definitely, it's interesting to me. It feels like a blame game.
Right. And as you say, like high performer, a lot of the women who listen to me, they fall into that high performer, overachiever, going for the A++, trying to do the extra credit. And for many people, I used it as my superpower. Like I can get a lot of shit done. However, it also was my kryptonite.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a big believer because I've started to step into this place of, I'm not the burnout coach that's going to tell you to stop. I'm not the burnout coach that's going to tell you to slow down, to no, don't pursue that goal. Because if somebody came and told me that, I'd be pissed.
Right.
I'd be resentful. I feel like that's something I've realized recently. I used to kind of say, oh, work less and live more. But sometimes that sounds great in theory, but sometimes you are so in the zone and you are so excited. And sometimes your work feels like such an extension of your values, almost like a way in which you show love to the people around you, to your clients, to the world. We don't want to stop. So what I've kind of started to realize is for a high achiever, it's not about, that's why I think balance is bullshit. Balance implies that something about how you're living your life is wrong and that there's some sort of like situation where everything in your life is going to be equal and you're going to spend the equal amount of times on everything in your life. Right. That is a fallacy in our modern world. And especially for high achievers, it sets us up for failure from the get-go. So instead of that, what I kind of think of is, so let's swap out balance for sustainability.
Yeah.
It's not about having a balanced life. It is about taking that relentless ambition that you have, that goal-getter, get shit done part of your personality. It's about taking that and finding a way to do it sustainably.
Yes.
There have to be checks and balances. Like when I say, like, I'm not about to tell you to slow down, that is not me giving you a free pass to never take care of yourself, to never rest, to not like question some of the mindsets that we've had since we were teenagers.
Yeah.
Probably. I'm a big believer. It's part of the reason why I really like the other work I do part-time, working in education and working with high school students. I'm a big believer that the mindsets that are burning us out now were formed when we were when we were teenagers.
I mean, let's look back, at when you and I were going to go to college. There wasn't this like super hyper spotlight that every single move I made was setting me up for my future. Right now, I feel like now kids are thinking about college like in junior high, that if I'm not in the right club or the right and you're just from that age, you're so focused on like what this is going to help me achieve that you've lost sight of like, it's Monday.
Yeah.
Like, you've lost sight of that. Everything is like to the next step.
Our teenagers aren't teenagers anymore, in my opinion. Our teenagers are like little mini corporate drones. And it's really sad to watch because and that's actually one of the things that I talk a lot about in the families that I work with is, look, I understand we have big goals for your kid. Yeah. I understand you want them to go to an Ivy. I think they're capable of that, but you gotta let teenagers be teenagers. You're gonna lose them. Right. They are going to they're gonna pull a me. And they are going to pursue this path that's it's great. It's going to make them very successful and woohoo, go them. And they're going to get down that path and they're going to be like, what the hell did I do this all for? I don't even want this.
Right. Because it's like,
and that's a waste.
Right. Because maybe at 12, I said I want to be a doctor. Right. So then your parents latch on to that. Like, I want to be a doctor. And then who knows? I could have been watching freaking Grey's Anatomy and thought it was cool when I was 12. But now, fast forward, I'm 22 and I'm like, I'm dead dog tired. The last thing I want to do is do a double shift and all this. And like, I'm now feel like I'm now stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like this, that's exactly how I felt when I was pursuing. So for everybody's background, I was a scientist by trade. My entrepreneurial journey started when I was getting my PhD in microbiology and immunology. This is how much of a science nerd I am. I was going to be Dr. Ellen, but that's exactly what happened to me. I kind of went along this path that was very validated. I've always been a very externally validated person. So it's like it was like one of those things where I would tell people what I did. And they were like immediately super impressed and, oh, she must be really smart. And I loved that reaction. I got like a sick, twisted like validation out of that reaction. I vividly remember having a conversation with a freaking Home Depot employee who was helping me find something. And it was in grad school. I was at the University of Michigan. And they're like, so what brought you out here? Because I think they saw I was wearing like Seahawks gear or something like that. And they're like, so what brought you to Michigan? And I was just like, oh, I'm out here for grad school. And they're like, oh, what are you getting your degree? And I told them. And he literally went, damn, you're a glutton for punishment. And I got a sick, twisted satisfaction out of that. Like, it was really like kind of terrible. So I did this because of how it impressed people and how validated it was. I did it because it's like inherently respected. I did it because I was good at it. And then I get multiple years into my graduate program and I looked around me, and this isn't to say anything's wrong with people who want that path and enjoy that path and enjoy that work. But I looked around me and I was just like, I don't think this is the life I want. Like, I'm not fulfilled enough by the work that I'm doing here and the ways in which I'm contributing to want this. It's a very like, it can be competitive, but I actually think more than that, it's very much like publish or die. My graduate project involved me working out of a windowless room for like tens and tens of hours every single week because I was doing microscopy. So you have to be in a dark room to take pictures. Like, it wasn't the lifestyle I wanted. And it took me 3 years into graduate school to start to realize that.
Yeah. And I feel like, there's a guy on one of the, Sunday morning talk shows talking about Anxiety Nation and how most of our teenagers are anxious. And it's because like there's all these expectations. I just think to myself, when I was in like high school, like I just wanted my driver's license. Like that was like, right? Like that. I wanted my driver's license.
Freedom.
Yeah. I wanted my driver's license, or, I wanted to go to a concert or like hang with my friends. Like those are my like lofty aspirations.
Yeah.
Go to New York City
I wanted to be second team all league on my soccer team. That was what all I wanted was my soccer accolades. And the straight A's were great, but like whatever. I just wanted soccer.
But I feel like kids today, they don't have that like willy-nilly-ness to them.
Yeah. Everything they are doing is and it doesn't apply to every student, but like I literally work with students on a day-to-day basis in that part of my life. Which I really enjoy it because they're like mini versions of the adults I work with. It's kind of awesome in that sense. But like they'll get a 1300 on the SAT, which in the grand scheme of things is a damn good score.
Right.
And they think it's a terrible score, and that I've literally had to talk students off a ledge of my parents are going to disown me and I'm going to be homeless and end up working at Walgreens. I actually had a student whose dad said, if you don't put in the effort, you're going to end up working at Walgreens.
Right.
And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Do you know what you are setting this kid up for?
Right.
You're not good.
In 20 years, he'll be unpacking that in therapy.
I know. She was unpacking it now. I was like her therapist in our tutoring sessions and I finally told her, I was just like, look, my brother has a kick-ass career. Everybody thought I was going to be the like uber successful sibling. My brother has a kick-ass career. And he probably will hate me talking about this, but he's never going to hear it anyway. Whatever. My brother got a 900 on the SAT. He went to a state school that all you needed was a 900 to automatically be admitted into the school. He did not go to like this fantastic like Princeton, Harvard. My brother makes over 6 figures a year because of his accounting degree now. And I am just like, he makes vastly more than I do. In all respects, he's infinitely more successful than I do. And he got a 900 on his SAT. I think we're putting way too much pressure on kids, but we're getting perhaps a little bit off topic. But I think that's important for us to think about though with kids is these are decades in the making. These things that we are experiencing, they are decades in the making. So think about that when you're raising your kids.
But I also think of like, as we kind of like go back to our kind of mindset here and led us down our path of burnout, where it's like, I had to get shit right. I had to do I was a doer, right? Like, it's like we were checking our boxes. So regardless of where your box is leading you, either down the graduate degree or just in life in general, we were doing all of our box checking. So for you, we all have our moment, right? That like we hit that brick wall. What was that rock bottom moment for you?
It was grad school. It was, and it was actually what I was hinting at before, where I looked at it and I was just like, holy shit, I don't want this. I hit this point in grad school where I'd gotten inklings of it prior to this moment. And what I kept trying to do, I felt unfulfilled. I felt unfulfilled. I didn't feel, and I'm a very self-motivated person. Like, if you need somebody to get shit done, hi, I'm your girl. Like, I'm not somebody who usually struggles with that. And I was starting to struggle with it. And so I was just kind of like, okay, maybe I'm just not liking my graduate project. Maybe I just need to like do something a little bit different. So I got involved in this dual degree program. So I got involved in, I added like this mathematical modeling component to my project because I was just like, okay, this sounds interesting. It'll teach me a new skill. Like maybe this is what I need to just like light the fire again. So I just kind of started trying a bunch of stuff. And what's interesting about that is I was fundamentally unfulfilled. I was emotionally reactive. I was like very quick to tears. I was snapping at people. I was isolating. All of those are actually signs of emotional burnout. But one of the other big signs of emotional burnout is an uptick in numbing behaviors. And humans are professional numbers. We are so good at numbing.
Yes.
We numb with food. We numb with social media. We numb with the shitty reality TV show that we watch, and we don't know why we watch it, but we watch it. But we also numb with things that are very productive, like work. Like busyness, like helping other people, working out. Like we can numb with things that are actually socially very acceptable. So what I ended up doing, and I didn't realize it until years later, is I was unfulfilled. And so I got involved in like 80,000 different things. And I think I convinced myself that I was doing it to try to find a fix, but I actually think I was doing it to numb. So I got involved in all of these different things, and that led to overwhelm burnout. That led me to, like, when you're in overwhelm burnout, you have like this inability to turn off. Like you could be so damn tired, and yet when your head hits the pillow at the end of the night, you cannot fall asleep because your brain's just going. That is a very common sign. I actually feel like another common sign of overwhelm burnout that I keep forgetting to talk about, but I know it's a sign, is when you start dreaming about your work. You're like dreaming about your to-do list. I am work in education, so periodically I will dream about calculus, which sounds like a nightmare, but story of my life. Like you start dreaming about these things, and that is literally because your brain cannot turn off. It's so full of everything that you've been doing over the course of the day. So that started happening to me. And because I didn't do anything, I just stayed involved in all of the shit I was in. I ended up experiencing physical burnout. And when you're in physical burnout, you see things like just like persistent exhaustion. It doesn't matter how much you rest, it never feels like enough. Our immune system and our stress response are very interconnected. So you also start to see that you're getting sick more frequently or having a lot of difficulty recovering from illness. And that is another thing that I started to see in grad school. I was like perpetually tired, and I felt like I was perpetually fighting off some sort of bug. And it was funny because it all happened because of that first thing. It was emotional burnout into overwhelm burnout into physical burnout. I had like the poo-poo platter burnout when I was in grad school.
Would you ever get like insomnia from the burnout? Just because maybe your brain can't turn off?
I don't remember having insomnia when I was in grad school, but my sleeping patterns have gotten worse over the course of my life. I was an amazing sleeper when I was a kid. I would sleep through earthquakes when I was a kid. I was a great sleeper when I was in high school. I actually don't think my sleep problem started until I was in my 30s. And I do think a part of that is perhaps a little bit of overwhelm. I think when you get into your 30s, there just starts to be like some like real life shit that hits you when you're in your 30s. And I'm single, so like finances are always a big thing that's on my mind because I have to pay for everything in my life. So I actually don't think that was as much of a factor for me, but I definitely feel like it has become more of a factor for me. So that's one that's like inconsistent. I feel like it very much depends on the person. Some people, and I hate these people, are like lights out as soon as their head hits the pillow.
I know.
I am not that person. Not anymore, at least.
So as you know, for people listening, you know, they're like, maybe some of these sneaky things are happening to you that, you know, you're, you know, like you said, I think the big part for many of us is we numb, right? So it's like, I'm overwhelmed over here, right? I'm like, this is just not giving me the satisfaction that it used to give me. So now I'm going to go over here, and maybe it's like, I'm going to start going to the gym, or maybe it's like, I'm going to start getting involved in some type of activity over here, or maybe doing things with my kids or whatever, but like something else that like is distracting me, numbing me from the actual like point that is being the problem.
Yeah. And I actually, before you proceed onward from that, and I know you have a question, but like you just listed off things that are actually like, those are good things. Spend time with loved ones, like go to the gym. But I think the difference is it coming from a shitty place?
Yes.
Like, are you doing it because you're just like, I don't want to deal with what's over here? Is that where it's coming from? Or is it coming from okay, I need a break. I'm going to go work out some stress in the gym. I'm going to go spend some time with loved ones. Like, know where it's coming from. If it's coming from a negative place, it's probably a numbing behavior. If it's coming from a positive place, it's probably not.
Because the other thing I see with gym work, food things, being obsessive about it, control, right? So if there's an area of life over here that I can't control, then I'm going to go here. I can control that, right? I can tell my kids what to do, but maybe I can't tell my boss what to do. You know, I can tell my body what to do. I can push myself to the brink. I can like control how much I eat, but I can't control my kids. Maybe I can't control my job. So I see that as like numbing as like two things, like a controlling as well as a distracting.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh God, like nail on the head with that one. Lack of control is actually a big thing that leads to, especially the emotional sides of burnout. There's something called uncertainty stress, which is one of the most pervasive types of stress out there. And it's really challenging to navigate. We do, especially for the control freaks among us, which, hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Yes, recovering. We have meetings on Tuesdays.
So true. Like, especially for the control freaks amongst us, it is really hard to be in situations that are uncertain. So, but I think it is also, I think a big thing that we're talking about here is the reason why like emotional burnout happens, for example, is because you are not giving yourself a space to process the negative emotions. You could be dealing with a shit ton of uncertainty, a shit ton of lack of control in your life, and you can navigate through it pretty well if you are giving yourself space to process what's going on. And most of us don't. Yeah. Most of us do exactly what we've been talking about of, I'm going to ignore this shit that's going on over here, and I'm going to throw myself into this. I'm going to throw myself into exercise. I'm going to throw myself into this business I'm trying to grow. I'm going to throw myself into work or into, helping XYZ people in my life. I'm going to throw myself into being a mom. And that is the thing that ultimately leads to situations like mine when I was in grad school. I'm very happy to say I haven't dealt with emotional burnout since I was in grad school. And the reason for that is I have a lot of different methods in my life for processing emotions. I'm very clear on my values. Like, that is another big thing that can lead to emotional burnout. You can't feel fulfillment and alignment if you don't know what the core things are that fulfill you and what the core things are that give you alignment. So you have to know what your core values are. And I always push people a bit on this, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I always say it. Family is not your core value.
Yes.
I know it's really easy to say one of my values is family. That is in my opinion, a cop-out, a should value, a service value. Yeah. Because you don't value your family because they're your family. You value them for some deeper thing that they give you. Maybe it is security. Maybe it is compassion. Maybe it is belonging. Whatever it might be, there is something deeper there as to why you value your family. And saying it is family is a cop-out, and you're not going to necessarily get that alignment if that's the word that you're using.
I also feel like if I'm a mom and I say that, and if I don't say, or a dad, and I don't say my family is a value, I'm a shitty person.
Yep. I felt that way too. I felt like a complete dick the first time I did my values, and I was just like, oh, my family's not in here. What does that mean? What does that say about me?
You're like, I must not love my children. Like you feel like a shitty person. But as you said, like, family is a noun where we're talking feelings. So it's like, for me, a very core value for me is time. So it could be time with family, time with something, but one of my biggest core values is time. And if you encroach on my time, I'm going to come at you like a tiger.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I always say that it's my relational value. My value is belonging. Right. Because I could care less if you are a family member or chosen family and you are a friend. If I feel a fundamental sense of belonging with you, I can be my chaotic, unfiltered self. I can swear and you're not going to judge me. I can show up incredibly imperfectly, and I know that I am safe with you.
Right.
Like belonging is kind of the word that I use as a way to kind of convey emotional safety with others.
Right.
And so that's really what it's about for me. I've had moments, we all have. That's why I don't think family is the value, where you don't actually feel safe with your family, where you feel judged by your family. I could tell you several instances in the past few years where that's happened with me. So that's why I think family is just a shitty value, because if you say the value is family and you're like literally dealing with emotional or whatever kind of abuse from your family, you're trying to force yourself to value something that you don't actually value.
Yeah.
It's about so much more than that. So it's about so much different than that. So knowing your values, as soon as I knew my values, which I check in with them constantly to make sure they're still showing up in my life. As soon as I knew like what success looked like for me, as soon as I learned about self-compassion and stopped being such a dick to myself, emotional burnout became vastly less of an issue in my life. It started to become more of the overwhelm and the physical sides. Do I still occasionally fall into those? Yes, ma'am. But emotional burnout is not an issue for me anymore because those foundations are now so strong.
But also, now you have awareness. So like as soon as you start to see some of those patterns starting to like pop up, it's like a weed. You're like, oh, there's that weed. And you can start to kind of pull that weed before it starts to really become invasive. So as
exactly.
So, the one thing you said is that I think so many women are hard about self-compassion. So what's a sneaky way we can give ourselves the break, give ourselves the grace without being like, I'm just going to ignore it?
Oh, yeah. So this is documented. This is actually something that has been researched. I have read her book like 4 times. Her book is literally called Self-Compassion. Her name is Kristen Neff. But to summarize it for you, for those of you who are like, I'm not reading the book, there's 3 components to self-compassion. There's self-kindness, there's common humanity, and there's mindfulness. And I want to break down what each of them are. Self-kindness is quite literally talking to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend or your kid. If you wouldn't say it to them, why are you saying it to yourself? I remember somebody in a speaking gig I did who said, wow, if I talked to other people the way I talk to myself, I would have no friends.
Nope.
And everybody in the room like awkwardly chuckled.
Right, because they're like,
yeah. They're like, oh shit, that's me too. So just like changing how you're talking to yourself. And it can literally be like, let's say you snap at your kids. And after you leave that situation, you go behind closed doors and you're like, oh my God, I am the worst mother ever. I am such an asshole. Why did they even let me take these home from the hospital? Like the shit that you would never say that to yourself or to your best friend. We say it to ourselves. We would never say it to our best friend. So instead, it's about removing yourself from the situation and being like, okay, it's okay that happened. Like, I'm not excusing that happened, but I'm acknowledging that I am imperfect right now and I screw up, and it is okay that I screw up. So I'm not going to hang this over my head. What I am going to do instead is I'm going to make a plan for how I can avoid doing this in the future.
Right.
That's self-kindness. Because if you were talking to your friend, you'd probably say something similar. You would probably be like, it sucks that happened. And we're not going to excuse that happened because I know that's not the type of parent you want to be. But it's also okay that you had an imperfect moment as a parent.
Right.
What can we do to make sure that doesn't happen again? That you don't take that frustration with life out on your kids. That's probably how you would handle it if you were talking to your friend. So do it the same way when you're talking to yourself. So that's one thing we can do. Another thing we can do is, again, using the snapping at your kids example, common humanity is about recognizing that despite the fact that you feel alone, you're not. You are not the only mother on planet Earth right now who just snapped at their kids.
Right.
You're not. There's probably thousands of other mothers on the planet who just snapped at their kids as well. So it's about realizing, and again, it's not about excusing but it's about not feeling like you're the only one. Because when we have situations like this, we can feel so alone. Like, oh, none of my other friends snap at their kids like I just snapped at mine. I'm the shitty parent amongst us. No, that's probably not true. They probably snapped at their kid yesterday, and they're probably going through exactly what you're going through, thinking about it. That's what common humanity is. But then the last piece, which I actually think is also a really, really powerful one, is mindfulness. And when I say mindfulness here, though I am very pro meditation, I think meditation is powerful sensory rest. I think meditation trains us that we don't have to react to every goddamn thought we have, which is hard for a lot of us. But when I'm talking about mindfulness here, I'm talking about being aware of your negative emotions and experiences without over-identifying with them. Like, let's take the exact same situation. Instead of saying, I am a shitty mom, you simply just change the language to being, that was a shitty situation. And we're depersonalizing it. We're instead of taking the label of I'm a bad mom, that was not a good parenting situation. We're just changing the language and assigning the negativity to the situation and not to us individuals. So that's kind of the 3 pillars of self-compassion and kind of how they show up in a situation like that where we would otherwise judge ourselves really harshly.
Yeah. And for many women, many of you women listening, I think the biggest part for there is that self-kindness piece, because when it comes to, oh my God, what I ate, I didn't work out. And you just literally like the spiral that you would go down is ridiculous. And I know that my inner voice is like an ex-gang member. So I get it. And you're not going to like magically do this overnight. But what's going to happen is like, instead of you going 5 minutes of the like beating yourself up, maybe it turns out to be 3 minutes. And then eventually it's 2 minutes. And then eventually it's like 1 minute. Eventually you're about to start. And then you're like, hang on.
Yeah. And I actually even find it starts differently than that. Like it might be 5 minutes and that 5 minutes might not change. But at the end of the day, you might look back and realize, you know what? I was really mean to myself earlier today. And then sooner or later, it's not by the end of the day. Maybe it's like a couple hours later that you realize I shouldn't have talked to myself that way. And then it becomes in the moment, you catch yourself and you're like, no, I'm not going to spend 5 minutes in this spiral. I'm going to cut it off right here. And then, you get to the point. So like sometimes it doesn't even mean you catch yourself in the moment. Sometimes it means you catch yourself 12 hours later, but slowly but surely you move up that timeline and you cut down on the time that you are spending in that shitty, toxic, self-critical mindset.
Yeah. And so the one thing I always try to get across to you ladies is expectation management.
Yes.
So many of you, like, I'm going to give you this big hug. Here's this big hug, virtual hug. So many
Both
of
us,
you,
group hug.
You hear this great stuff. You read a great article or see something on social media, and you think that if you can't nail it in a week, something's wrong with you. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not going into the dressing room and trying on a bathing suit. Like it's like, I'm going to probably try this on 500 different ways until it fits me, until I finally find a way of approaching it that makes sense for me.
Yeah.
And maybe you need to hear it 4 different ways. Like a lot of times, like I have experts like this on because I've probably said it to you multiple times and you probably didn't get it. And Ellen's going to say it in a way that you're going to be like, oh, is that what she meant? And so
that's what she's been trying to tell me for the last several years.
And that's why I love having guests on, because it's like, I know like when I was burnt out and no one could tell me to shit. But maybe Ellen's going to say something in a way that you're going to be like, that's what she's talking about. Oh, I get that. Or maybe you're going to buy this book and be like, yeah, I need to have a little bit more self-compassion because I feel like I'm being punched in the face by Mike Tyson every time I trip up.
Yeah. And I will reiterate what you're saying too about it's not going to happen in 5 minutes. I love the analogy. It's not putting on a bathing suit in a changing room and seeing if it fits. Like it is, I feel like self-compassion became commonplace in my life. And I don't feel like, when I'm in the thick of it, trust me when I say I still shit talk myself. I love what you said earlier about like my inner voice is like a gang member. That resonated so much with me. I say some things to myself. Even like, now. Yeah.
Even now. Got a knife.
Yeah. Even like 10 years after starting to do this work. But I actually think it probably took me, I would say, and this is not me trying to be like, don't do this work because it's going to take this long. I would say this is me saying, start doing this work because it's probably took me 5 years for it to be like normal in my life to not immediately default to shit talking myself.
Yeah. Because we're overachievers. Like we want to nail it. Like I think you.
Yeah.
I've been trying to eat in a different way. And it literally has taken me a month because it's like my like habit has like taken, like my habit wants to take over and like reach here, and I'm like, no, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I've had to give myself grace. It's like, Kim, like
you have to.
It's like, you've eaten the same way. It's like, if you ever got a new job and you back out of your driveway and to go to your old job, you got to go left. And immediately like you don't not even thinking about it. You want to turn left. Analogy. You want to turn. You're not even thinking about it. And then some days you're like you're like crap, and you're like halfway through that turn, and you're like I have
literally driven by my freeway exit after I've moved because I was so used to when I go this way, I'm going to my parents' house, and I'll like drive past my freeway exit, and I'm like, Ellen, what are you doing?
Right,
so we get on autopilot like that. We totally get on autopilot like that for sure.
And it's so hard to like turn the ship sometimes. Yep. And you have to give yourself that latitude. And it's really challenging that so many of us, if I got it wrong like 3 times in a row, like, the angry person comes out.
Yep. Amen. This is all so true. Yeah. So not just give yourself grace, but expectation management, like you said before, extend the timeline. This is not something like we're talking. I think this is a thing that a lot of people don't think about with burnout and burnout recovery and burnout prevention. We are not talking about habits that you're going to be focusing on for the next month. We are not talking about habits that you're going to be focusing on for the next year. We're talking about a lifestyle change. We are talking about changing the way you live your life, changing the way you think. Those things take a while to take hold. And that's normal. You are not failing at implementing these things because it takes you time to do it. It should take you time. It's just like weight loss. Any weight you lose quickly is probably going to come back, and perhaps with a vengeance. Mm-hmm. But any weight you lose slowly by making these lifestyle changes that are sustainable and maintainable, that's probably stuff that's going to stick with you for a long time. And it's the same thing here. It's the exact same thing here.
I absolutely love that. And now, so for the women who is listening right now and they're kind of like dangling by a thread, they're like, everything you guys are saying, I'm like, how did you know? What's one thing that they can start to do to kind of climb out of the... Okay, if you got more than one.
I'll give a couple simple ones. So for the emotional side of things, I always say the first place to start, if you are really struggling with the emotional side of things, whether it's the self-compassion we were talking about or quick to tears or just feeling unfulfilled, any of those emotional things we were talking about, emotional processing. That is where I would recommend getting started. And when I say emotional processing, we have different styles that we process in. Some people are written processors, some people are verbal processors. If you are a written processor, get a $5 journal at Michael's or freaking pull up a Word document on your computer and just start brain dumping. Just start word vomiting. Get it out of your head. Okay? Because that's part of the reason we feel that emotional exhaustion is we're holding all of these thoughts, the emotions, these situations in our head. So emotionally processed. So it can be writing. If you are a verbal processor, there's actually a lot of avenues with this. It doesn't have to just be talk therapy. I'm very pro venting. It could be a good vent session with a friend. It could be having a conversation with yourself while you're taking a shower. Process it. Okay? So that I think is one big thing. And actually an offshoot of emotional, but also would help with physical. I'm a big fan of walks.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of walks. I think you get mental and emotional processing while you're out on a walk, whether you're listening to something or not, and you are physically processing the stress that's in your body, and you are getting very, very low stress self-care. So like a lot of like high intensity exercise is going to peak your cortisol, and sometimes that's not what we need. Sometimes that can actually create more stress. Cortisol is your stress hormone, BTW, since the science nerd slipped out a little bit there. So like walks I love because I feel like you get so much bang for your buck. And actually, I remember reading a study somewhere. I don't remember the specifics of the study, but like 11 minutes of walking per day has tremendous health benefits. So just 11 minutes. If you do longer than that, you just get even more bang for your buck. So walking is going to help with the physical side. It's going to help with the emotional side. For the last tip then that I would have, if you are very overwhelmed right now, this is the one time I'm going to mention systems today. And really, the only systems that I'm going to talk about here is stop remembering so damn much. Yes. If you have something you need to keep track of, write it down. Ideally, write it down in the same place every time so that you're not like hunting around at 80,000 different locations trying to find your notes. But writing it down, capturing the important information is going to take such a mental burden off of your brain.
Yes.
Whether it's to-dos, freaking things you need to get at the grocery store, that gift idea you thought of for so-and-so, doesn't matter. Stop putting so much pressure on your brain to remember so much shit. And that right there is going to relieve so much overwhelm in your life. So those are my 3 tips.
It's funny that you say that because I have a client who she's like, I just can't really remember anything anymore. And I was like, you write it down? And she's like, no. And I'm like,
our brains are terrible filing cabinets. Like, stop relying on your brain to remember everything. And they're awful at it.
And I don't know how many times I'm like about to go to bed and I'm like, oh, I got to do blah, blah, blah tomorrow. And then I wake up and I'm like, what do I have to do today? And I like, it's just gone, just evaporated into the ether.
Same. I always say I can't trust my brain, so I just write it down. Because I can't. Right. I can't trust my brain, so I just write everything down.
And we always have this in our hands, so it's like there. Like, my notes app, it's there. Like it's just there's some way to get it out of my brain and down, so that you can even voice it if you don't want to type.
Yeah, same.
But
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. This has been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. I know this. We could probably be like, what's that, Huberman Labs and talk for like 4 hours on this.
Yes, we could.
I don't know who listens to that. If you guys listen to like 4 hours of podcast. It
takes me like 3 different sessions of like going on a walk to get through one podcast. And sometimes they are like, I'm very selective with which of his podcasts I listen to. It has to be a topic I really want to learn about. Because I'm like, okay, this is going to be 3 days worth of walks right here.
I know. It's like, especially if it's like really heady, I'm like, okay, maybe it's going to be 20 minutes because I get to process what he's saying.
That's something I do while I walk is I have my system set up where I can share the podcast like into my notes app. And then I go in there and I'm like, this time point I want to re-listen to because they talked this.
I do that too. I'm like, am I even know? I mean, I was like, all right, he mentioned blah, 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 blah. Look that up. Like, because it was like, a study. And I'm like, all right, let me read the study because right now what he's saying doesn't make sense to me. But if I read the study, it might make more sense.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. You and I are so on the same wavelength with that. I love it. I love it.
This has been fabulous. So where can people find you on the socials?
Yes. So I am Coach Ellen everywhere. My first name is spelled Ellyn. But Coach Ellen. I'm Coach Ellen on Instagram. That's probably where I spend the most time. My stories are my like little happy place. That's like my little corner of the internet. So if you want to see my personality in real life, go to Instagram stories. LinkedIn is definitely another place where I hang out, but I'm much more corporate-y on LinkedIn. That's kind of more where I speak to my corporate clients, my consulting clients. So if that is more of where you hang out, you'll find me over there. It's just a different vibe than my Instagram. And then CoachEllen.com is my website. I would actually highly recommend if you want to get started with burnout management, with systems, with anything like that, go to CoachEllen.com/start. That is my Start Here page. I've got all of my different freebie bundles. I have a burnout starter kit. I have something for leaders if you are looking to support your employees. And I have a systems bundle to get you started. And then I also have a link to my podcast. My podcast is called Burnout Proof. And that's exactly what we help you make you over there is we help make you burnout proof. So those are all some great places to get started and to find me.
Awesome. And so I ask everyone as I close out podcast, what's one thing that makes you feel magical?
Oh, that's a lovely question. I mean, I love spending time outside, but I actually think one of the other things that makes me feel magical that I never talk about, singing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had a little Wicked singing party, which is why I thought of Wicked at the beginning of this episode last night. And it was really fun.
Now,
even if I'm by myself in my apartment, I sing.
Now, can you sing or in your mind you can sing?
I can sing. Yeah. Yeah. Which, awesome. I mean, I guess that sounds a little cocky, but I was in choir for forever. I love karaoke. I did musical theater when I was younger. I love to sing. And yeah, I can sing. We have a lot of music in my family. So
yeah, I mean, in my head, I sing like Whitney Houston. In person, I know that I probably sound like a drowning cat. So I live in my head.
I sang at my grandma and grandpa's 50th wedding anniversary. I sang a song in Italian at their 50th wedding anniversary. And this guy came up to me afterward and told me that I should audition for one of the Seattle choirs. And I would just like, I would love to, but I don't live here. But thank you. I didn't at the time. I was in grad school at the time. Yeah.
That was nice. But yeah, I love to sing too. I love music. So that's awesome. You guys, if you feel burnout, absolutely head over to our podcast. Like I know for me, I didn't really know how to articulate it when I was going through it. And so maybe listening to a couple of her podcasts, but if you're starting to feel like there's something like more, there's something going on, check out her podcasts and
or just shoot me a DM. If you have no idea where to start, shoot me a DM. I can point you in the right direction.
Yeah, and reach out to her because I know that like for a lot of this stuff, like I didn't know what the hell was going on with me. And now I have the words for it. So I'm hopeful that this is helping you to get the words to describe what might be going on with you. And Ellen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today. All right,
Thank you for
Magic
having me.
Makers, you know where to find me. I will see you guys next week. If you found anything interesting, you know how I feel, screenshot this and tag us on the socials. We love hearing that we have been helpful to you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.